start with it on the defensive side of the football. And I think one thing, there's a couple of like glaring factors that are staring, Bill Belichick kind of right in the face, and just just the whole kind of defensive unit right in the face. And one of them being the lack of losing Stephon Gilmore was huge. The lack of having a shutdown corner to basically take half the field away is hurting them. It hurts. It hurts a lot, man, because when they played the Chargers last year, they glued Stephon Gilmore to Keenan Allen.
Yep.
They just glued him to him. It was like, you go wherever he goes, and he doesn't catch the football. Understand? That's what. And not only that, but just not having a presence like that on the field is hurting them. So I want to get JD. What do you think about the no Gilmore on the Pats thought?
Definitely. First, I want to say, like, the fact that the Pats with a rookie quarterback are even in the playoff hunt is impressive. So I just want to say that. But second of all, talking about the secondary, that is something Belichick prides him on. So and you know what? I wouldn't worry about it too much, honestly. I put like 3 on the worry, 1 to 10. I'd give it a 3 because it's not that big of a deal, because Belichick will figure this out. He's going to mold one of these guys into a top corner. That's just what he does. That's literally he's a Pro Bowl cornerback factory. Bill Belichick is. That's just what he does. So whether it's J.C. Jackson or it's one of these other young guys, man, he's going to have that guy soon. But not having it right now, I mean, yeah, it sucks. You might not make the playoffs because of it, but them's the ropes, man. Them's the ropes with these, when you have a rookie quarterback, young team, young secondary. So that's how I look at it. I think Belichick's looking 2-3 years from now, and that's smart. Get Gilmore out of here, give these guys more reps, not necessarily give him more reps, but let him continue to have the reps, because he never even got in the season. But yeah, that's my opinion. It's just like it's no big deal. Belichick has time. He'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Jake? What about the Gilmore leaving the Patriots?
Yeah, that was really just an interesting trade itself. I mean, even though that was a trade talk that had been lingering around the league now for quite some time, and they weren't really sure of, was it going to be last year they were going to trade him away, because knowing the contract that's involved, and then not to mention the age as well, was one that they were thoroughly looking into this as far as they possibly could, as far as what's the value that they'll get back from trading a guy like that away, knowing he's a shutdown corner. And I was very surprised at the fact that he landed in Carolina, because you think about with him, Jeremy Chin, and a couple of the young secondaries on that backfield, which of course New England's going to be facing Gilmore anyway come the next week after the Chargers. So that'll be interesting to see what that may look like for Carolina's defense against Mac Jones. But yeah, it does leave a hole open for New England, where they got to have that shutdown corner. That's the guy that is the beacon of the backfield, that you put him on a star wide receiver and he's not converting anything, whether it's, a big play when you need it, third down conversion situations, even fourth downs. That's a guy that really does hurt you on that side. And now it's bringing in too much reliability on J.C. Jackson and a bunch of others in that young backfield. So yeah, that was kind of a tough loss for New England. I honestly wish they could have got back from what they had initially traded away to Carolina. I wish they probably would have got like another pick or so back on that one.
I want to add on to that really quick, because Belichick, he likes to make people play left-handed. Not having that shutdown corner, can't do it as much. It's not as easy. So that's kind of like what he was talking about. But like, you want to take the best guy, your best thing away from him. Yep. Without that one guy, you're right. It's very difficult.
It's very tough. Now, secondly, my second point is I don't know how all the rest of Pat's Nation feels, but I do not like this double. I don't like Steve Bellicheck and Jerod Mayo calling the defensive plays. I don't like that. I don't like that. I want one guy. Pick whoever, Bill. Whether it's Jerod Mayo or whether it's his son, Steve Bellicheck. I hate this dual, like, there's too much room for error there. You know, too much room for confusion, for error. There's got to be one guy calling the plays. I've hated it since they started doing it. Like, I don't like it at all. There needs to be one guy. I don't care who it is. They need to pick one, though.
I agree.
Personally, I'd rather see Jerod Mayo do it because I don't trust Steve Bellicheck enough that, like, I don't trust him as much as I do Bill. So even though he's been in the system long enough, I would much rather see him go back to his old kind of he was the secondary coach. So I'd much rather see Mayo kind of get the dot as the defensive play caller and just have Steve is a very good secondary coach. He was very, very good at it. Like that secondary was really good. So it's not like he's a bad coach. I just don't think he's ready to be a coordinator yet. I'm not saying he's a bad coach because he's not. He was a very good secondary coach. I just don't think he's ready for that responsibility yet. I'd much rather trust Mayo making those calls. But I hate that dual play. Like, I hate that. I hate it. I don't like it at all.
And you have to think of the history.
Jake, what do you think about it?
You have to think of like the history with Jerod Mayo. I mean, he played as a New England Patriot, so he knows that defense very, very well. And that's interesting, though, that he's not getting, at the very least, majority of those play calls. Because if you think about it, I mean, look at on the other side of things, you look at the Tennessee Titans with Mike Vrabel. The fact that, him as a defensive-minded guy, and he trusts every single one of his players. I'm really concerned that same way, but you're absolutely right. I mean, you have to think about it. It's not as easy as people think it is, to whether it's being a coordinator or it's being a head coach. It's not that easy to make it here in this league, even if you're just a specialist type coach. I mean, it's one thing because you're working on just one segment of the defense. So I'd say if you put, Steve Bellicheck into the secondary, then at the very least he could work his way there, then maybe implement some new ideas on defenses here and there. But majority of it, at least have Jerod Mayo work that, because that's a guy that you could see really scheme up well for the run defense, and then not to mention play a little bit of those linebacking screen situations where you may have one, possibly two, playing up on a screen, depending on those passing situations that the opponent's offenses may be running. So that's going to be something I'm on the same boat. I would much rather have Jerod Mayo control more of that defense, knowing he's got the experience of how New England's defense has always been set, and the secondary needs a good coach. They do. Like, if Steve Bell, I would actually like that better, because I know Steve Belichick's a good secondary coach, and they're going to need it now that they don't have Gilmore. They're going to need that. They're going to need good coaches in spots like that. Now more than ever. Yeah,
so absolutely. I would much rather see Steve go back to doing what he knows best how to do, and that's coach the secondary.
Yep.
JD, what do you think?
When you have two leaders at something, you don't have a leader. That's just a fact. So when you have two leaders, you don't have a leader. You need to figure out who's the leader of that defense. Is it Steve? Is it Jerod? I would choose Jerod, but I don't know because I'm not in the room every day. I would choose Jerod because of his experience, like you said, Jake. Like Bobby said, if he already knows how to do the secondary and you're training young secondary talent, you should have a good coach on there. But here's what I was saying about Steve.
To me. It only makes sense.
It would only make sense. That's just logical. My question for Bill and Steve and the Patriots is this, and Robert Kraft, and all Patriots Nation, actually. My question is this: if Steve Bellicheck was fired right now, or if he needed a job right now and he couldn't go to the Patriots, would he have a job in the NFL? Do you think that he would, for sure? And if that's because I'm not always keen on coaches hiring their sons. Like Kyle Shanahan, he got a job outside of his dad. And I'm not saying that he's not a good coach. Maybe he's the best coach. Maybe he's amazing. Maybe he's even better than his dad. I have no idea. But I would like to see Steve outside of New England. I'd like to know what that's about, because I don't know. Like that could, we don't know yet, but that could come up to bite them someday.
They could hire him off of his previous, just like before he got the defensive coordinator stuff. He was a very good secondary coach, so maybe they'll look at that. I mean, like I told you, we need a good secondaries like a good defensive secondary coach right now. I would much rather see Steve fall back into what he knows best and just have Jerod with the experience, like take the dot as the defensive play call. I think the team would actually be better for it. I think the Patriots defensive unit would actually be better for it.
Especially if they want to push their chances to sneaking into the playoffs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. High Life just said that doesn't make any sense. Let me explain it really quick. So basically, when you have two leaders, basically, like when you have two people, like let's say you have two chefs in the kitchen, they're going to want two different things. You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of how that works. When you have two, like you can't have two, like the Bears. Bears were a great example. You can't have Nagy and Lazar calling plays. It was terrible. Jesus. Oh my God, it was awful against the Browns. That was a disaster. So Nagy said, "All right, I'm going to focus on all three elements, and you can call the plays." And so far, we've been a little better, not much better, but that's basically what that means. You have to have one person doing it for better or for worse. You just got to let one person do it, in my opinion.
I was expecting you to say that game against Tampa. I was waiting to see if you were going to.
I had to turn it off halfway through. I literally was like so pissed. I couldn't watch it. I had to turn it off. I was like, I'm gonna watch basketball. Fuck this.
Yeah. If there's one point that I literally can say about the Chicago Bears is I think honestly, the Bears don't deserve Justin Fields for the way that the development is looking. You know what I mean? Like because well, the thing of it is that. First of all, this is all from the core. This is all from the core with the McCaskies, because we've known from history that the only thing that Chicago has hit out of the ballpark has been defense. That's always been the root of that franchise. You know, that monsters of the Midway and so on and so forth. They've been really good with pedigrees of running backs from Matt Forte to Cedric Benson to a bunch of really good running backs, and not to mention offensive weaponries. Tight ends were kind of here and there. I mean, there were some good picks with as far as Desmond Clark and Greg Olsen, and then having Zach Miller and Cole Kmet. But the problem, is that they've always butchered quarterback. But you then have to think of why that's always happening, and that's because of play scheming. Offensive line is too slow. They can't really provide any protection for Justin Fields. And that's where I'm like, I fear most for Justin Fields. I really do.